Very happy morning once again, St. John Missionary Baptist Church. We want to thank you for joining us virtually once again. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and go right into prayer. It is Memorial Day weekend. We will not prolong the hour. So I'm going to ask that you bow your heads with us, and then we'll enjoy the music instrumentally, and then we'll come back and give you a word of inspiration. Father in heaven, we thank you again for this, another privilege of ours to come to the house of worship once again. God, we thank you for all that you're doing, all that you have done, and all that you will do. God, we thank you that you have not cast us out, you have not put us out, and you have not left us out. God, we thank you for extending your hand of grace, mercy, and blessings towards us. And God, give us the wisdom to receive that which you have preserved and prepared by way of your word. Every word that you have spoken is a promise to your people. God, every word that you have spoken is a promise to your people. And you are willing and able to fulfill, and you want to fulfill it. Sometimes, God, show us how to get out of our own way so that you can be the God in heaven and in earth and Lord over our lives. Now, my Father, hold us in the hollow of your hand as we're going through some uncertain times. Some of us don't know what we're doing, don't know which way is up. But God, I stand here to tell you that I'll look to the hills from whence cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord who made the heavens and the earth. Receive this, our meditative prayer, as we invoke your presence in our lives, in our homes, in our dealings, and yes, God, even in our relationships on today. This is our prayer. And the people of God said, Amen. 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 I don't know the words. Just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able, he's able. God will do just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able, he's able. Very, very briefly, real quick, we just have some words of meditation and ask that you think about these words very, very swiftly and quickly. We don't want to prolong the hour. We know it's Memorial Day weekend and you got a lot to do. You got those ribs to prepare, that chicken to season, that tater salad to make, and we want you to be able to do that. So if you have your Bibles, we're going to ask that you go to the book of Ecclesiastes. The book of Ecclesiastes. We don't do a lot of preaching out of Ecclesiastes, but I want to share with you today out of the book of Ecclesiastes. We're going to begin at the 11th verse. And really, as I thought about it, the 11th chapter, I'm sorry. And really, as I thought about it, what I wanted to do, and I thought I would just read the 11th chapter and leave it there and let it marinate. But give me about maybe 8 minutes to just make some salient points, and then I'm going to leave you so that you can start your holiday week. All right, beginning at verse 1, chapter 11. I am reading out of the Holman Christian Study Bible, and this is what it says. Verse 1, Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 1. It says, "Send your bread on the surface of the water, for after many days you may find it. Give a portion to 7 or even to 8, for you don't know what disaster may happen on the earth. If the clouds are full, they will pour out rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls to the south or the north, the place where the tree falls, there it will lie. One who watches the wind will not sow, and the one who looks at the clouds will not reap. Just as you don't know the path of the wind, or how bones develop in the womb of a pregnant woman, so also you don't know the work of God who makes everything. In the morning, sow your seed, and that evening, do not let your hand rest, because you don't know which will succeed, whether one or the other, or if both of them will be equally good. Light is sweet, and it is pleasing for the eyes to see the sun. Indeed, if someone lives many years, let him rejoice in them all, and let him remember the days of darkness, since they will be many. All that comes is futile. Rejoice, young person, while you are young, and let your heart be glad in the days of your youth. And walk in the ways of your heart and in the desire of your eyes. But know that for all these things, God will bring you to judgment. Remove sorrow from your heart and put away pain from your flesh, because youth and the prime of life are fleeting. On last week, we talked about he's got the whole world in his hand. So on today, I want to talk about just a few practical points from the preacher. My thought for today, some practical points from the preacher. Point number one, if you look at verse 1 and 2, uh, the author Solomon, he suggests that we ought to invest wisely in ourselves. Look at what he says: cast thy bread upon the waters, or send your bread on the surface of the water, for after many days you may find it. What is he talking about? He's talking about money. And even back as late as, or as early as the 70s and the 80s, when you talked about somebody having bread, we were talking about money. So invest wisely in yourselves, because he says you don't know what disaster may happen. In other words, diversify. Give to 7 or 8. Diversification. Invest wisely in yourself. You ought to use this time in quarantine and this time in this pandemic to actually get close to God and take a good account of your talents, your skill sets, and your gifts, and invest wisely in yourself. You are the way that you are because God created you that way. And God is anticipating and God is expecting you to take full advantage of the gifts that He has given you at birth. Don't ever let anybody cause you to discount what you know God has created you to do. So, point number one, invest wisely in yourself. Point number two, the author, which we believe is Solomon, the son of King David, the wisest man to ever live. Point number two, he suggests that we ought to stop procrastinating. How many of us know people that all they want to do is talk about a good idea, talk about a good idea, talk, talk, talk? Well, guess what? Talk is still cheap. Stop procrastinating. Where do you see that, Pastor? Let's look at verse 4. He says, one who watches the wind will not sow, and the one who looks at the clouds will not reap. In other words, people just sitting there saying, I'm not going to do it because the wind might blow. I'm not going to put seed out because wind may blow it. I'm not going to go outside because it's not rain. It just might rain. And so you're watching clouds and you're watching the wind. You're watching clouds and you're watching the wind. Let me tell you what you're doing. You're procrastinating and you're wasting the gift that God has given you. This is a perfect time to get into communion with God to see what it is that God will have you to do. Now let's move on to my last point. Point number 3. What you have to learn how to do, what I have to learn how to do, once we learn how to invest wisely in ourselves, once we figure out how not to procrastinate, we're going to have to learn how to take the limits off of God. In other words, take God out of the box. In other words, God wants to do something amazing in you, to you, for you, with you, and through you. But the problem is, we don't understand how God works. Where do you see that? I'm glad you asked. Let me show it to you. Verse 5. Just as you don't know the path of the wind, or how bones develop in the womb of a pregnant woman, so also you don't know the work of God who makes everything. Let me give you a hint. miracles are still possible. And God still moves against the odds. In other words, take God out of the box. Stop putting limits on God. And because you don't understand how God moves, don't mean that God ain't moving. So let me go back. I just want to give you a few points, some practical points from the preacher. Point number one, invest wisely in yourself. Diversify. God is giving you talents and gifts that he expects you to use. So stop watching for the rain clouds. Stop looking for the wind to blow all your seed away. Stop being the victim. And then take God out of the box so God can do something amazing with your life and through your life, for your life and in your life and in spite of your life. That's all I got to tell you. Invest wisely. Stop procrastinating. Take God out of the box. Take the limits off of God. Now, we're going to come back and we're going to close out in music, but I have a few suggestions for you. And let me tell you this. I actually wrote them down. This is for the church family. We are looking at resuming service, face-to-face service, on June 21st, and we'll open that service and we'll re-enter the building with communion. That's Communion Sunday. So we'll start that Sunday with communion. And I want you to consider blessing Second Harvest Food Bank. Second Harvest Food Bank. As kids move into summer, we do know that some will not eat, and there is a need. If you need information contacting Second Harvest Food Bank, feel free to give me a call, reach out to me, email me, text me, and I'll make sure that that happens. Now, next Sunday, which is the fifth Sunday, I'm taking fifth Sunday off. We're taking fifth Sunday off. And then the following Sunday, I'm going to see my mama. First Sunday, we're taking that off as well. The first Sunday in June, we will not be here. And then we'll set preparation to get the building ready to come back in on the third Sunday. All right. So y'all will see me again on second Sunday. That don't mean I won't post. I may post something. I may send something, but I may not send it in this format. All right. Father in heaven, thank you again. Let this word find a resting place and a lodging place in our hearts, minds, spirits, and soul, so that we'll learn how to invest wisely, so that we will stop procrastinating, and that we can take you out of the box. The song says that God will do just what he said he would do. He's ready to fulfill every promise that he made to you. How can he do it? He's able. I want you to leave with that on your mind, that he's able. All right. Hear our prayer now, God. Receive our prayer right now. And we're going to end with that song as we leave you with another word of inspiration from St. John Missionary Baptist Church, 1700 Staley Avenue, Savannah, Georgia, 31405. Here we go. You good? God will do just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able, he's able. God, God will do just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. He's able. One last time. God will do just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. Oh, he's able. Oh, he's able. Last time. Whoa, he's able. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. God bless your hearts, and we'll see you again in a little while.